Hey, welcome back to the Back 40 Firewood channel and to another Q&A video. I went outside today after work. It's like, the feels like temperature is 98 or something. So I was going to go do some stuff in the wood yard just for a little bit, but it was just way too hot out. So then I thought I would do this Q&A from back in the wood yard. So I got the laptop, went back there. Laptop did not like the heat either, so the laptop was not working good in the heat. So instead we went in the pool for a little while, and now maybe later on this evening I might go back out to the wood yard and try to get just a little bit done, continuing working on that pile of logs, but I don't know, I don't think so, just too hot out. So if this is your first time watching a Q&A video, or if you're back for another one, remember, what I do on these videos is I go back to my previous Q&A video. I pull out a few questions that were left in the comments, and I answer them. So if you have a question or something you want to know, leave your question down in the comments of this video, and then I try to do these like every other week. Although if the weather stays hot like this, I might do another one here next week. Who knows? But leave your question down in the comments of this video, and I will see if I can pick it out for next week's or the next Q&A. So now on to this week's Q&A. I think I picked out like 9 questions to answer. And I did that because if you were on the live stream the other night, you know that my favorite number is the number 9. I'm just going to make one little adjustment here and bring me in a little bit bigger. All right, so there we go. Where are we at? Where are we at here? Here we are. We're here. We're ready to go. The first question we have in the queue is from Heinze's Backyard Adventures. Heinze, how you doing? Thanks for the question. Hey Shifty, if you could do it all over again, would you have made your woodshed different, or what improvements would you do to make it better? A drive-in door, maybe? Oh, yes, indeed, I would. I would definitely add a drive-in option for the tractor, and I think I would make the pitch of the roof a little. I'd make the roof higher and not as steep, so that way I had more room under the one side. At the time we built it, I just never, at that point, thought I would ever have a tractor. But I might be doing something to address the drive-in capabilities here coming up in a month or two. Next question is from Andrew. If you had to buy another boiler, would you get a gasification boiler or maybe other options? Well, hopefully I don't have to be in that position to buy another boiler anytime soon. But if I did, I think all new outdoor wood boilers, I think all of them are now standard, like the gasification unit. Like, I don't think you can buy new ones that are the old way. I could be wrong on that, though. I don't know. But I think all the new ones are like that. So if that day ever did come, I probably would end up getting a newer one and having it be a gasification unit. Jake, I saw you spreading chips in the wood yard. Are you going to gather and remove them, or will you leave them to rot? The plan is to just leave them. They will break down, and eventually after a year or so, maybe even 2 years, they'll just kind of become more or less like dirt, like soil. And after thinking about it, that's one of the things I kind of am glad I went with the chips instead of like gravel. Just because with the chips now, if for whatever reason, if I don't end up using part of the wood yard, or if I change things around and I'm in a different spot, or whatever happens, I think with the chips back there, it will allow for the forest to return more easily to its natural state. So the chips will just break down, they'll turn into dirt, and the forest can be returned back to what it was. Power Guy. He had a long comment here, and his question was about, do you find that making the bundle splits is appreciated by the customers compared to them buying commercial-sized firewood that they'd have to resplit themselves? And then a question on how much pine or spruce do I mix in? Yes, so I do find that I get a lot of feedback on people appreciating and liking the smaller splits. Just because of the purpose that it's being used for, like recreational burning in a fire pit or campfire. I think one of the things like I like to do is I like to feed the fire throughout the night. Like I don't want to just throw on 3, 4 big chunks and just let them sit there and smolder and burn. Like I like the smaller splits, just like I said, they're easier to work with. They season faster. And I think people just prefer them for that purpose of recreational use. As far as the pine and the spruce, if I have pine and spruce in the wood yard, it gets mixed in. So depending on how much I have, that kind of determines how much gets mixed in. If I'm pulling stuff off the stack to make like some bundles, I'll try to limit and kind of get maybe like 1 or 2 pieces per bundle. But if I have it, it gets split and it gets mixed in. And then as I pull it off, I just kind of will mix, if I'm pulling off of a stack to load the stand, I might grab from one side and the other and then kind of get a little mix if I see there's a lot of pine. But it does get mixed in. I do use it when I have it. And when I get it, I split it and stack it away. Len Smith. I always like seeing and appreciate all your comments, Len. So he had another comment here about the working, enjoying what you do. And then at the end, his comment or his question was, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? That, I'm not sure. Even 5 years from now, I am not sure. I do know one thing, though. I do know that I am really enjoying the whole content creation and the process of creating content. And so if I had my way, my ideal 5-year plus plan is that I would be able to, I'd still be creating content. I would be continuing to fine tune my skills and my craft and just continuing to enjoy that process. And who knows, we'll see. In 10 years' time, I might still be doing it. It'll be interesting to see how like the capabilities of YouTube and the technology evolves and seeing what other options might become more available for creating content like this. So again, Len, thanks for the question and the comment. Like I said, I always appreciate and seeing your comments and enjoy reading them and getting your feedback. For 4440 PVC, are you ever going to get a real trailer? Like one that might dump? Yeah, it's definitely something that's on the list. Just right now, I don't really have a need for it. I have the want, but I don't really have the need. Like I get by fine without one. If I ever did get one, I could see myself getting maybe a smaller one, not something huge. Just because I'm not very good at it and I don't like maneuvering those things around. If I ever did scale up the firewood side of things, I probably would need one for delivering firewood. But if you remember back to my last Q&A, my plans aren't so much into scaling up the firewood production at this time. But someday, maybe, like I said, it's on the list. It's just on the want list, not the need list. James, how long did it take for your firewood stand to really start selling after you set it up? Actually, not long at all. It was, I believe, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong because my memory sometimes is off, but I remember setting stuff up out there like middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I believe that weekend, within 2 or 3 days, I had my first sale. So it didn't take long at all. 2-3 days. Like I said, I put it up during the week. I put it on Facebook Marketplace. And that following weekend, or that weekend after, I had sales. I was moving the wood right away. And like I said, didn't take long at all. And the wood was moving. But when I started out, I didn't have the stand like I did now. I just had racks. So I had like a $20 rack, a $35 rack, and then a $60 rack. So like the $60 was almost a face cord, and then the 35 was like half that, and then the 20 was what I had, kind of close to what I have now. Frank, I have been thinking about doing I have been thinking on doing a firewood stand. So there you go. Another stand getting put up possibly. So I watched your video on it, but how much space in between the pallets? 16 or 18 inches? Actually, you were very close. It's actually about 17. So the bin is about 17 inches wide. And the only reason that it's 17 inches wide is because when I laid the pallets down and I put the pallets, I measured from one end, I stood one up, and I went to the other side where I wanted to kind of end it. And I split that difference and I put a pallet, and that's what it ended up being. So I think the bins are 17 wide by 42 tall. But I'm probably going to be changing that once I rebuild the roadside stand. So I might change that size, but that's the size they are. And the only reason they're that size is, like I said, when I put the 4 pallets or however many pallets for the base, and I took a pallet and I stood it up on its end, and then I put that on the one side, and I went down to where I wanted the bins to end, and I evenly spaced out the other 2 in between, and that's what the slots ended up being. And then the height, the pallets were 45 inches, so I kind of framed it out, so then it was like 42 inches. But like I said, I think I'm going to be changing that up a little bit here if I ever get around to redoing the roadside stand. So if you're thinking about doing one, good luck. Hopefully you have some success with it. And yeah, I just based my measurements off of how things laid out at the time I made it. And the last question here is one that was actually kind of touched upon with a couple comments from the last video. Stanley Keith was wondering why I do not have Little Boss Man helping out more in the woodyard. And a few other questions were about whether or not, or when Little Boss Man was going to start running the tractor or the splitter, or, and I think the driving the tractor and all that stuff, I think still he's maybe a year or 2, maybe 3 years out before he's driving the tractor. But the other thing with why he's not in the woodyard working more and kind of, he helps out in the woodyard quite a bit, but I don't put him in the videos for extended periods of time, just because of there's some policies with YouTube pertaining to having children in your videos, and whether or not you have to then classify those videos as made for kids or not. And the guidelines on that are really fuzzy, and it's kind of a big gray area. It's something that YouTube put in place a while back. And so you can read through certain rules, and you can see that if you have children in your videos doing things, that you technically should then have your video labeled as made for kids. And obviously, all the firewood videos and stuff aren't made for kids. So long story short, in order to avoid any complications with following those guidelines and policies put out by YouTube as far as having children in your videos, that's one of the reasons why when you see him, it's just briefly in little clips here and there, and he's not like a focal, or what they say, a focus point of the content. So he is in videos here and there, and he does help out in the woodyard. I choose not to put him in the videos as much, just for those reasons, for guidelines and policies that YouTube has in place. So that, like I said, is the longer version of that answer. It's weird stuff. You can read through it, and, they have certain things that just say, any child in your video can be considered a child actor, that then you have to specify and state, and if you don't do it and you have content that they deem is made for kids and you didn't mark it made for kids, you can get fined. And yeah, so just a big mess. So, but he is helping out in the woodyard. And the other thing too is I just, I don't want to force it. So he works his way in, and yeah, he's been doing quite a bit back there actually though lately. So I just like him to get that interest and develop that interest on his own and not have it forced upon him. So, but thanks for the question, Stanley, and everyone else everyone who sent in, everyone who left a comment. If I didn't get to your, let me get back over here. If I didn't get to your comment or answer your question, go ahead and leave it again in this video down in the comments, and maybe next week I'll try to pull it out, or next time I do this. Again, I don't like to get these going too long, and so I'll read through them, pick a few out, and we'll come back here in maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, and do this all again. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.
I've been a real bad boy on the town all night. Starting to